Welcome to The Founder's Mind. This is your host, Adam Muchler. On this episode, I have Kedar Reddy, co-founder and CEO of PlayLoops, a GIF maker with the goal of creating GIFs that are more inclusive in their representation. Listen in as Kedar shares how he built his team, the lessons he's learned along his journey, and what's next for PlayLoops. Kedar, welcome to The Founder's Mind.
Thank you, Adam.
Awesome. Well, I'm really psyched to have you on here. We had a little banter that didn't make it on. That's okay. But I'd love to hear from you a little bit about what you're working on, maybe get the definitive answer on, is it GIF or GIF, and sort of give us an idea of what you're up to.
So I am the CEO and co-founder of PlayLoops. We help amplify political advocacy groups by making it easy for them to create social media content. So currently that means creating GIFs. And it's interesting that you should ask if it's GIFs or GIFs because there's a split right down the middle in our own co-founding team where, my co-founder thinks it should be called GIFs and I think it should be GIFs.
I'm in the GIF camp, by the way.
But good. I think usually pretty early in a conversation, I can suss it out. Like when I'm pitching it, then someone responds by saying GIF. I usually then just go with GIF, because okay, I don't care. But if you ask me, I'm on the GIF camp too.
So let's get real basic for a second. What is a GIF for people that are listening? I mean, I think it's pretty pervasive in pop culture and in social media now, but just in case someone's listening and they're like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah, GIF is basically a short piece of video content that's looping and video content that has no audio to it. Is called a GIF. And typically, you can either construct a GIF from taking a longer video and slicing a bit of it and looping it, or you can put together a series of images and then play them one after the other in a kind of an animation and loop that animation, and that becomes a GIF.
And this feels so niche, probably to some, and even a little bit to me. But what kind of company are you building around GIFs? I mean, on my phone I have a couple keyboards where I can send GIFs to people, whether it's an email or whether it's a text message, and I type in something that's on my mind, and I get a slew of suggestions. A lot of them are pop culture related, from like a TV show or a movie or a quote or something. Something that's really relatable. So, what are you working on and what kind of pulled you into this space?
Yeah, so I think this all starts when I was working for a grassroots campaign about a couple of years ago. So by the way, I have a background in game design and game development, which I think explains some of this. At the time, I was working at a educational games startup in the Silicon Valley, and I was just let go, and I was considering what I had to do, and I joined up with this grassroots campaign and created a series of games for them to illustrate the different kind of points that they were fighting for in that campaign. And when it came time to share them on social media, there was no way of sharing an interactive, game on Facebook or Twitter, so we had to convert them into GIFs. So I captured the screen as I was playing the game and turned it into a GIF and then shared it on social media.
That wasn't tedious at all.
It was tedious. Yeah. To your point, each game took me, a couple of days to build, and then probably another day to actually get the right recording of the gameplay. But I think it helped that I always kind of knew that these were going to go on social media, so I designed the games in a way such that the eventual product of it was going to live on social media. So anyways, those GIFs really got us 10 times or even more engagement on Facebook when we shared them, and really got our campaign off the ground, which is what inspired me to think maybe, why aren't other activist friends of mine using GIFs in their social media campaigns? And generally, how can they take on, create content in more that requires more production, like video and interactive stuff or GIF. And I think what attracted me to GIFs is that it's something that can be relatively cheaply made with existing content, because a lot of campaigns will have videos from their previous campaigns, or they can source videos from popular culture or current events and clip parts of it and use them for their own campaigns. So I think that's how I started.
So what was the kind of you were working for this campaign?
Yeah.
Right. You were creating these games. You made them into GIFs so that they could be shared or people could engage with them on social.
Yeah.
And then you were like, this is a business. I don't what was that kind of leap? Or maybe it was a series of small steps and not a leap.
Yeah.
Where you were like, this is something that I want to pursue more seriously or create something around it. What was that?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a series of steps rather than a leap. Because the campaign I just mentioned to you, where I was still creating games and turning them into GIFs, my real vision at the time, and I think still is to actually bring interactivity to social media.
Okay.
So that users can empathize with points of views that campaigners are trying to get out there. But the fact of the matter is, interactivity is just not conducive to Facebook and Twitter as it exists today.
Yes.
And so I learned, I just had to deal with that the hard way by building a interactive meme maker for about 9 months to a year, and then realized that that's not going to go. I'm not going to get customers. I'm not going to get traction anytime soon off of that. And so I had to really think about how can I help organizers create content, and that was through making GIFs and short videos, I think. And so that's been the journey to where we are today.
And you have a co-founder?
Yeah, I have two co-founders. One, Faye Hayes, I mentioned, who likes to say GIF, and Thiba Soundarajan is also a co-founder.
And how did you find these people that were equally passionate about GIFs or GIFs, if we're respecting their pronunciation?
So Thiba I met through the campaign, actually, that I mentioned about 2 years ago. We started working together at that time. And about a few months later, I pitched her this idea of interactive meme maker. And she seemed to be on board, and we started working together. And she didn't really come on as a co-founder until the beginning of this year, however. But Faye Hayes, who I mentioned, we both met her actually at Black Girls Code, which is a camp for young Black girls to teach them programming. And so that's where we met her, and she contracted with us for about 6 months before she came on board as a co-founder. And then Thiba at that point also did.
Cool.
Yeah.
So there was sort of these ongoing conversations and maybe less permanent engagements that allowed you all to calibrate a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we definitely worked together. Thiba and I have been working together on and off for the last 2 years, and then this year she came on board as a co-founder, and Faye definitely started out as a contract engineer and then came on board as a CTO.
Are you all developers?
Yeah, we're all developers. Yeah, so we're all developers. Faye and I work about 80 to 90% on PlayLoops, and the other time we're either freelancing or Faye works at Backstage Capital as an engineer, and then Theba is she works full time at a company in San Francisco, and then part time at PlayLoops.
What's been your experience? So you found your founders.
Yeah.
You sort of enrolled them into this company and this belief, and you work together, and for all intents and purposes they're all in also on this idea.
Yeah.
um, how have things moved in the past 6 months since you've had sort of this more fully engaged team?
So for most of last year, I was working by myself and prototyping on an interactive GIF maker, from which we pivoted to what we have now. And all three of us have been working on the current iteration of PlayLoops for about the last 9 to 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been up and down, like a startup. It's been tough. It's been a really great working with the team that you really gel with. But yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the year, we got into Founder Gym, and I
Cool.
believe that's how you found us initially.
Yeah.
Which was really terrific for us because we found a community of underrepresented founders, and a community where we actually, we felt welcome, and like we finally felt like there was a community that we could call ours, because until then, up until then, it felt like I was on the edge of some community that this tech investor entrepreneur community that I was trying to break into, and then suddenly we got this chance through Founder Gym and
you were embedded.
Oakland Startup Network, and it suddenly felt like hey, there's others like us. There's people to look up to, people to approach to, if we are having any questions or problems. And so that was about 6 months ago now. So that's been amazing. And then about 2 months ago, we got into Y Combinator Startup School.
Cool. Congratulations.
Thank you. And we just completed it this week. And as part of that, we were planning on launching our public beta of PlayLoops. And at the end of this week, we'll be launching it.
So at the end of this week?
Yeah, at the end of this week. So really excited to be launching our public beta.
It's November 6th, 2018. So if you're listening to this episode, it's already happened.
Yeah.
And go find it. So public beta, is it the website? Is it an app?
Yeah, it's a website that's available on desktop computers.
Okay.
You can find it by going to playloops.io.
That's amazing. I think one of the things that you just said, and I just spoke to Mandela, the founder of Founder Gym.
Yeah.
And this is something that I'm hearing, and it's not this is not a revelation, but finding your community.
Mm.
And feeling that connectivity with other people that understand what you're working through and that are supportive of what you're doing, not just because it's a novelty to them, but because it's meaningful to them.
Yeah.
Right? I think it's safe to say, and this is unfortunate but true, that a lot of innovations that are coming out of underrepresented founders or underestimated founders, as Arlen Hamilton might say.
Yeah.
For people in my demographic, I'm a straight white man. I think there's a lot of novelty, because I think there's a lack of understanding, and a lack of appreciation of the need for some of these things. And so I can literally only imagine, what it's like to find that community, because I live in the demographic where the community is the default.
Yeah.
For me, and that the support networks are all there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great. Just the Founder Gym community and just the startup community in Oakland, around Capor Center, around DevLabs, which is another
Hmm.
investment firm out there that's focused on underrepresented founders. So yeah, it's I'd say it's yeah. I think we found our we found our home in Oakland. I
You
think.
found your people.
Yeah.
Is this something that you all have bootstrapped? Have you taken on funding? A mix? I know you all
Yeah.
are working a little bit.
Yeah. We've bootstrapped it. Yeah, we've bootstrapped. We haven't raised, and we work, like I said, uh, part time to keep us going.
Yeah.
And the intention is to raise once we have some paying customers on our platform.
Yeah. So what is a paying customer? What does that mean? I mean, like, am I a
So
paying customer if I go to your website?
no, so you'd have to actually pay us. So our payments aren't actually integrated yet. So once we launch in December with the payments, you can come to our platform, use our tools to create, convert your videos into GIFs, and overlay them with some text and share them on social media. All of that for a subscription, a monthly subscription.
So it would be like if I want to do totally custom stuff, I'm
Yeah,
subscribing to something.
yeah.
If I want to use existing content, I'm not
That's
subscribing.
No, you're not. So you can share existing content, but if you wanted to edit existing content again, you would have to subscribe to our to our tool set.
Cool.
Yeah,
What knowing that you've been through Founder Gym now and that you're, in the Y Combinator startup school or you just finished,
yeah,
and I'm sure having other conversations, what's a piece of advice that you've received as a founder that you found really impactful?
yeah. Hmm. I don't know, but maybe it'll come to me as I talk through this. But basically, just as a first time entrepreneur, just watching a ton of videos of people giving you advice on how to do a startup,
Yeah.
just like watching a ton of those, I think was really helpful. Like as opposed to just watching one and then or reading one book and being like, okay, I know all about startups. Like, yeah, let's go do this. I don't have to like listen to any more advice. I'd say like just be really really hungry and like take in as much as you can,
Yeah.
and then you over time you'll see like advice being repeated, and then at some point you can make that decision for yourself. Like if there's contradictory advice, then you can now that you've listened to like 100 people say give advice on that one particular topic, you can pick and choose the ones that you want to take and actually deploy
Yeah.
for yourself.
So you've immersed yourself in learning on many levels, on the technical side, on the
Yeah.
entrepreneurial side.
Yeah.
What kind of gave you that nudge, or what was that little thing that said like this is something that I can do if this is
Mm.
your first time, right?
Yeah. Uh, hmm. Well, I think I think we all build off of our previous wins,
Mm-hmm.
and one thing is definitely I've gone through undergrad, grad school, and I've learned programming on my own,
Yeah.
and that's definitely like given me the confidence that I can go into anything, uh, and figure it out, and so that's the confidence that I bring to this to PlayLoops and the startup world in general.
Yeah.
But obviously it differs,
Yeah, of
every
course.
day.
No, this is your
Every day,
perspective.
yeah, every day it's like the confidence is at a different level. But that's what's driving me.
Knowing that you've had confidence in the past gives you confidence that you can find it in the present, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I kind of like I know that I'll learn something and come out of it, you know, uh, successfully. So I think it's a matter of time and grit, honestly. But yeah, let's see.
Grit is such a great competency, skill, word, behavior,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. And I feel like I'm almost like a walking advertisement for Angela Duckworth because she wrote a book called Grit and she has a TED talk about grit. So I don't know if you've heard this yet or seen it.
Okay. No, I have not.
And you've probably developed very similar understandings that she outlines or researches.
Hmm.
So TED Talk, if you want to keep it light and stick with your like learning from videos.
Yeah,
Book if you want to dive in.
yeah,
But it is such a crucial element in, I think, in life, but especially in entrepreneurship, right? Like you really are taking it, one day at a time, and there are a lot of losses out there,
yeah,
and and you have to like just transcend those
yeah,
L's, and transcend the I could go get a job somewhere and get paid way more than I'm making at this moment,
yeah,
but I can't let go of this thing that I'm focused on.
yeah, yeah. Even those two wins I've told you about, like us getting into Founder Gym and Y Combinator Startup School, those are like the top 1% of like the the 99% losses, that
Yeah.
or the no's that we've gotten. So, but yeah, it makes the yeses that much more sweeter, and we can actually we can tell that we're honing our story, and our story is resonating better, as we pitch it more
Yeah.
and we work on the product. So it's not as though we're doing the same thing again and expecting different results. We're changing and iterating and expecting different results.
Yeah, that's like I forget who said it. I'm really bad at attributing quotes, but I can tell you when it's not mine. But
Yeah.
a definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over
Yeah.
and expecting different results.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a lot of really big businesses are kind of like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to knock BlackBerry or Nokia, but like I think there was a point where they were just trying to do the same thing over and over again,
Yeah.
and it stopped working.
Yeah.
I mean, like a move to touch and away from keyboards, and
Yeah.
a move to apps and away from sort of like this like closed system. And it's kind of history will just tell you how things played out.
Yeah. And hopefully now back from apps to web apps.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least starting in your scenario, right?
Yeah.
With PlayLoops, there
Yeah.
you mentioned. I'm always curious with other founders. Who's a founder that you admire and why? And if there's more than one, that's okay. But whoever comes to mind.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Arlen Hamilton is really. She just pops up. She's like the North Star, right now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't really aspire to founders as much, actually, as much as I do like activists or political figures.
Let's go in that direction then.
Yeah. 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 So I think one person that comes to mind is definitely um, B.R. Ambedkar, who he's a politician in India that was instrumental in writing the constitution of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And he was an outspoken activist and politician, lawyer, but he fought for the rights of Dalits, who are supposed to be at the bottom of the caste hierarchy in India.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still very much a reality in India, and now reality in the United States because of the large Indian and South Asian population in America. So that's in terms of like my political aspirations and cultural aspirations. I think for me personally, it's taken me a long time to understand my own caste privilege.
Sure.
And so
Within your own community and culture.
within South Asians, within my Indian cultural heritage.
Yeah.
So now that I do realize it, it's important that I fight against it.
Yeah, I think that's such an interesting. It's such an interesting point, and I'm sure something that is maybe even harder to grasp for people
Yeah.
outside of, outside of your culture.
Yeah.
And and something that's talked about a lot in the U.S., right, is, you know, the white privilege and the privilege
Yeah.
of men, and specifically white men and straight white
Yeah.
men, which is like,
Yeah.
when we talk about intersectionality, like, I'm at the intersectionality of privilege, I like to tell people. And it's important to understand that,
Yeah.
you know, and how do you leverage your privilege to support people that want the support, and support people in the way they need and want to be supported. It's not on me to define that for them, but it is on me to engage people and say, how do you need me to show up for you?
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
listen to that, you know?
Yeah, and I think for me it's and add on top of that, like for me it's I think we all sit on some sort of privilege, and for me it's like the male caste privilege,
Mm-hmm.
that's the privilege that I enjoy, and that I need to use in order to dismantle it. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that perspective, and it's something that I'm working through myself constantly, and engaging people who are interested in having those conversations, because it's an ongoing process.
Yeah.
And I would say we're in the very, 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 very early stages of progress. Too soon to say if there's progress, but I hope so.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. I have another question, and then I think we'll get close to wrapping up. But what's something that you learned recently, in any domain, that blew your mind?
Yeah, blockchain blows my mind, I think. Yeah, we've been watching that space for a year now, and the economic side of blockchain, I think, really blows my mind. Is more than the actual infrastructure, like the technology. The economics of like Steemit, for example, that it's a social media network based on cryptocurrency and the blockchain. It basically rewards users for posting, and users for sharing content with their own coins, which I thought was really interesting. It's like it flips the equation. It's no longer like trying to get get users on your platform, have them pay you to use your platform and use your tools, but it's the other way. It's the incentives are now on the users to actually create. Is like you pay them to create content, and then you reward them if the content is of good quality and does well on social media or wherever it is. So I think that really it's really, really interesting. I think we're doing more research in blockchain and blockchain based business models, and see if that's a good fit for PlayLoops.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's where we are.
Sounds exciting. I am looking forward to the public beta, which comes out on your website this week.
Yes, this week.
And so for listeners, it should already be out there when you're catching this. What is a great way for people to follow along in the PlayLoops journey? Maybe, I don't know if you have your own following. What's a great way for people to engage and interact with what you're up to? Yeah,
you can find us on Twitter at PlayLoops. I just said at PlayLoops, and Facebook as well. But otherwise, just go on playloops.io and give us a spin. It's free, for the public beta, anyways. So,
cool.
We'd love your feedback.
Kedar, thank you for coming on the show. It's been great having you.
Yeah, thank you, Adam.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Founder's Mind. Check back next week for my interview with Arjita, co-founder of Equally, a company focused on improving access to equal education and opportunities for everyone. To make sure you don't miss any awesome wisdom from guests and stay up to date on the most recent episodes of the show, be sure to visit thefoundersmind.com. You can also follow along on social at The Founder's Mind. Last but not least, thank you to Roy Matz for the music on this show and his dope editing skills that make The Founder's Mind possible. Until next time, take care.